would want it to go. I also want to make the statement that that labor shortage is emphasizing itself, and if Mr. Chung recently made, that is the new CEO of Gaisuko, recently made the remark that they're not getting the amount of workers. So their criticism of us severing 5,000 to 6,000 workers is in a sense being vindicated by what they themselves are saying today. I also want to indicate that it is important to know that the PPP had started a kind of right-sizing years ago. Sugar workers understand this. Those who had closed down the LBI, Ogle, Enmore, Luziknan estates, what is called the East Demerara set of estates, it was the PPP. They also closed down diamond factory. And so please understand the context in which they will come with their empty promises at this stage to fool you, when indeed what we had done was the correct approach and policy, and indeed that which is going to save us so much money. To diversify away from sugar requires that the money that they are spending on sugar today must go towards the diversification projects. As we have mentioned, the 4Ps project, which are going to make far more profits than sugar. But they're not doing that. They're just pouring the money blindly into a black hole. Thank you very much.
That was Kemraj Ramchitan, co-founder of the Alliance for Change, giving our position on the sugar industry. We will now have a statement from Ms. Diana Rajkumar.
Thank you, Beverly.
Go right ahead, Diana. We have some movement in the where we're using now for our press conference. We had a, yes, but in the meantime, we will ask Diana to get ready to read her statement. Thank you, Diana. Please go right ahead.
Thank you, Beverly, and good afternoon, members of the media. I will do a brief presentation on AFC's educational policy plan. Is that better?
You can lean
Great,
forward.
go right ahead.
Yes, I'll do a brief presentation on the AFC's educational policy plan for the hinterland. The AFC has concluded its listening and grounding sessions in the hinterland communities, and with specific reference to the North Rupununi, the qualitative data constructed meaning from the indigenous people's lived experience. The AFC has gotten a better sense of the unspoken rules, practices in these villages, and through our representative sample, which revealed that resources are not fairly and or equitably distributed in the hinterland, which affected the people's standard of living. But for this press conference, I will focus on issues the AFC has found and that affects the quality of education and the AFC's attendant policy plans for our indigenous people. Indigenous communities are scattered along the Letem Trail, and it is common knowledge that paved roads bring economic activities, accessibility to schools, hospitals, and the decentralization of public and provision of private services such as internet connectivity. It must be recalled that the construction for the Linden to Letem Road was signed under the APNU plus AFC government with a grant from the UK Caribbean Infrastructure Fund and a loan from the Caribbean Development Bank. The government even wanted to divert the funds from this road construction, and with all the oil revenues has not continued with the remainder of the road from Mabura to Letem. The Kupokari Bridge feasibility study was also done at the same time, but the government cancelled the project. The effects are rippling. In Toka, residents petitioned that a paved road from Bushmount to TOCA will facilitate easier access to schools, given that students traverse miles. In Anai, another resident informed that 73 students from surrounding villages walk 4 miles in the heated sun to reach Anai Secondary School. Approval was sought for the purchasing of a bus to transport students through a supplemental budget, but students trekked the trails to reach schools at the time this data was collected. In this context, the AFC Regional Infrastructure Plan includes construction of paved roads to Letem and the bridge at Kupukari Crossing. In addition, to effect change at the community level, buses, boats, and bicycles to suit the terrain will be provided with free, prior, and informed consent of the Amerindian people. Schools in the hinterland communities are lacking soft infrastructure, and resources are largely missing to effect optimal learning outcomes. The hinterland need far more resources as teachers have limited means to continuous training. Primary school students have poor internet access, limited textbook, and coupled with poor electric power. These are structural problems which limits learning attainment as evidenced in yearly NGSE and CSEC examination results, compared to coastal students' better grades. It must be recalled that the APNU plus AFC government provided 200 internet hotspots in hinterland communities at government institutions, health centers, and schools. The AFC policy plan includes the provision of Starlink internet to all hinterland communities, equitable distribution of textbook, learning modules, libraries, placement of expert teachers in core subject areas, revised curriculum in addition with indigenous language, and continuous training of teachers with attendant higher wages. These will be implemented with the free, prior, and informed consent of Amerindian people across the 242 indigenous villages. And lastly, the AFC policy plans will give the nation's hinterland students a fair share through distributive policies of cash transfer, more than the Because We Care cash grant of $55,000 per year, with further cash transfers to single-parent households in need, childhood nutrition, support for business ventures that generate sustained livelihood, that will allow parents to send their children to school, among other government communities partnership support program. In effect, a comprehensive policy plan for students' health, accessibility, and affordability to schools. Our indigenous children must have a fair share to educational attainment on par with coastal students. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana Rajkumar. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, if you were hearing some background noise, it is because some media actually came in person. We have had to shift our location. We had a blackout at our AFC office in Kitty. David Patterson will speak to that, but we rather suspect that will be a regular Friday happening. I will now ask our election agent, Nicola Trotman, to make her statement. Nicola?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the media. On Tuesday, July 15th, the CEO of GCOM, Mr. Vishnu Prasad, reached out to me and indicated that the AFC's list of candidates for the regional elections had an effect. Our national top-up list and our geographic list were perfect in order. We made the required changes to the list of the candidates to the regional elections that was requested by GCOM and submitted those corrections. As of today, I'm extremely happy to report that we received our letter of approval from GCOM to contest in the upcoming elections.
Thank you, Nicola. I guess that's the news that a lot of our supporters and would-be voters were looking for. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, we will now entertain your questions.
Please,
Can you?
Oh, sorry.
Will you allow me
David
to?
Patterson.
Thank you very much, Beverly and ladies and gentlemen. We're in this cozy room we're in this cozy room because of one particular entity. Well, two, the PPP and GPL. As you know, offices at 26 Railway Line Kitty, we've been plagued with power outages in Kitty, well, and around the rest of the country for the longest while. And I think it's opportune to remind the country why we're here. Since the PPP has returned to office, they have purchased 28 second-hand or third-hand container sets from Honduras with a prime total of 28 million US dollars. About 2 weeks ago, I drove up to Colombia myself to check them, and only one was working. One. So and that's the person, I checked that person. They hired a power ship from Cuba. We don't know what is working, and one from Turkey. What we've heard is that, and what has been said to me, and I've shared with some members of the media, is that they have a very shady deal for the fuel. And the fuel that they're buying, you know, the company is a medical distribution company that has been awarded the contract to supply the fuel for GPL, bypassing our long-standing agreement with Statsoli from Suriname. And the fuel that they're buying is so cheap and so dirty, it is affecting the generators. So what they're doing now at the moment, instead of, we have to replace the alternators and the filters almost on a weekly basis. Up to 2 weeks ago, I reported to the media that of the plants at Kingston, only one was working. They have, obviously, their ill-fated gas to shore project. I'm surprised that there's no billboards about them touting about it. That promise that we will be getting, they started off by saying we'll be getting electricity at 5 US cents a megawatt. Midway through the term, they said they will cut the price by half. Now, because the project has skyrocketed, they're now saying it will reduce the price we're paying. But the country now has been suffering daily blackouts. Not a word from the PPP for the solution at the press conferences that Jagdeo has. He never speaks about power and their stewardship. But I want to remind people, in the 4.5 years under the APNU AFC government, we installed 63 megawatts of new power generation. 63 new megawatts of power. That was actually 50% of the capacity required that the country required during that period. I also want to remind the nation that every single, and I say this here, every single renewable project that the PPP has implemented and commissioned with great fanfare was designed, financing sourced. The only thing that they were able to do because of COVID is complete them. Every single one, you name it, Letem, Madia, Barteka, Wakenham, Legwan, Mokomoko, Kumu, Kato. I see they had a massive big opening saying that the Kato will be transformation. When we took office in 2015, the PPP had tried 3 times unsuccessfully to launch a Kato hydro project. We, with the help of the IDB, were able to successfully launch and procure it and get it complete. So in fine, ladies and gentlemen, the PPP are public into energy for the sale of GPL. That's, I mean, and I think I saw AP and you made a statement today, but I have the guys from GPL sent me the draft document here. So that's what they're doing. They can't manage GPL. They've pumped billions in corrupting, and now they're trying to sell it off to, I heard the local partner, local affiliate of InterEnergy has very, very close ties to the very, very top brass of the PPP. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. David Patterson. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Laura George would just like to briefly address a matter of concern. Laura?
Thank you, Beverly. Good afternoon. So, Guyana will be hosting the first ever Global Biodiversity Alliance Summit next week here in Georgetown. Now, what is this summit about? It is about where Guyana and other countries intend to focus on establishing a market for biodiversity credits, scaling biodiversity conservation, swaps, and accelerating biodiversity bonds. It would be similar to carbon credits for the forests program that Guyana has. Now, the quick question or the recommendation that we would like to make is to remind Guyana, to remind the United Nations and all its arms that there are indigenous peoples' rights that need to be respected and applied in the process that they want to undertake. More specifically, I want to remind Guyana and the whole world that out of the Kunming-Montreal Accord of December 2022, there is a specific target in relation to rights protections, biodiversity protection, when it comes to ensuring the full, equitable, inclusive, effective, and gender-responsive representation and participation in decision-making, and access to justice and information related to biodiversity by indigenous peoples and local communities, respecting their cultures and their rights over lands, territories, resources, and traditional knowledge, as well as by women and girls, children and youth, and persons with disabilities, and ensure the full protection of environmental human rights defenders. This is Target 2022 of the Kunming-Montreal Accord. So, a question and a strong recommendation that goes to the PPP administration is to ensure that indigenous peoples are informed and participate in this effectively. And we look forward to ensuring that all active, organized, whether formal or informal, indigenous groups are included in decision making. A call to remind the indigenous peoples to uphold and ensure that our rights are respected and protected by any political administration. And perhaps most of all, the PPP needs to probably also desist from pushing for major decisions to be pushed through as they are in the current mode of caretaker government. The National Assembly has been dissolved. So no major decisions should be made at this time. Indigenous peoples don't know this, but I would like to inform them that your lands and the biodiversity that you have protected, that we have protected, are coming in discussions again and being monetized. Let us be vigilant, as my colleagues have said earlier, to ensure that there is fairness, that there is justice, and that there is respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura George. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, we'll now take your questions. And to let you know that our advisor on oil and gas, Dr. Vincent Adams, is online. So if you have questions in that area, please feel free to ask questions. We have persons in the house, and I will just move this microphone here. The usual protocol, thank you.
Good afternoon, Svetlana Marshall, News Source. Mr. Patterson, you spoke about power generation and the issues facing GPL. We haven't seen the AFC's manifesto, but what could you tell us about the plans for the energy sector, more so GPL, and how do you intend as a party to address this issue of power outages and, bring down the cost of electricity?
Thank you very much, and obviously you will get that. We will get that be part of our manifesto. The very first thing that we'll be calling for, and I think we spoke already, is a full and complete audit of the gas to shore project to assess its viability, assess its worthiness of being our main power generating source, because obviously that's 300 megawatts. We will align it to our needs. We will obviously continue as you know, between 2015 and 2020, we did a complete energy diversification plan, which included natural gas, hydro, renewables, etc. We will do that. We intend to do that. We intend to upgrade the system, not what they're doing now. What they're doing now is really plaster. They are running lines and power lines willy-nilly. It has to be structured. I mean, during the APNU AFC's coalition, we actually went to cabinet. We actually got approval from cabinet to reserve swaths of land, large swaths of land. I think it was over 400 acres of land for power generation, distribution lines. We intend to not give out solar panels. We intend to give mini grids to communities. You know, I mean, what they're doing now is giving persons, I saw a solar panel could light one bulb and maybe charge a phone. We intend to, just like we did in Maracaibo, we intend to give the entire community a mini grid. If you go to Maracaibo, the entire village is powered by solar systems. We intend to do that. We intend to obviously make GPL, return GPL to what it was on 2015-2020, whereby the maintenance is done in-house. Right now, when the PP returned, they farmed it out to some Trinidadian companies. We complained about that, who obviously unaware or ill-equipped to work in the terrains of Guyana, ill-equipped to work with our delicate power distribution sector, and they've quite frankly made a mess of it. We took 5 years trying to right-size it and to get it right. We're almost there, but once again, once the PPP touches anything, and obviously what we will insist on doing is the better training for the GPL staff, better remunerations for the staff, and the reduction of our line loss, in the sense that, you know, I mean, right now 30% of any power generated by GPL is being lost. We intend to get that down into the industry standard, which is no more than 10%, and that is all achievable with any government, open and transparently within a 5-year program. Because between the 2015 and 2020, we were able to reduce line loss by almost 10%. It's risen up back now under the PPP, but we were able to do that with the program PUUP program. But all the gains the GPL has made in the last 5 years, they've regressed. So we intend to start from scratch again and build the country back, the power system back to what it once it should be.
If I could just add a thing there. We had indicated that we always wanted brand new generators as part of the deal for the electricity sector. That is what we did. Because the epicenter of corruption in the PPP has always been these contracts with these boat generators. It is massive, massive corruption there. And even if we might say that they're charging just about 5 cents more per whatever they're delivering to the government of Guyana, a portion of that 5 cents is going to somebody inside of that PPP government. That is what they're doing. And there is where we are not, because from all the monies that we spent PNU AFC on generator set, they have spent 3 times more, I think.
More than that.
More than 3 times. And we still get in blackouts. And new generators have a capacity to last longer than these boats from Turkey, war-torn Middle East, and all of that. Yeah.
Svetlana, Kemraj mentioned there's something about corruption. I want to remind and the media about this. In 2015, when we took over, when I assumed control of GPL, there was a tender out for meters. You can remember that, the tender out for meters. And on the very first day, let me tell you how corrupt the PPP. And the very first day I met with the managers, I met with the executive, and then I met with this tier 1 and tier 2. When I met with the tier 2 managers, there's a young man right to the back raised his hand and said, quite shy, but he said to Minister, I think you should look at the procurement of the generators. Take a second look at it. Of course, I took the hint, and we took a second look of it. There was somebody, a PPP person that brought in already, the contract was just awarded, you know, it wasn't just tendered, it wasn't awarded. He had already brought in 3 containers full of meters. Carried us to court, and he withdrew the case. You know that obviously because, I mean, and then of course, there's only one place you could sell meters to is GPL. Do you know? Sat in a container there for 5 years, returned to government, and they paid him for 3 containers of 5-year-old generators. That's how they are. Meters, sorry. 3 containers of generators. And then you can Google it back. They carried us to court. Then, of course, I mean, by a bluff, by the time we said we're going to defend it because you can't be bringing in meters before the contract is awarded, he withdrew this case. So they went straight back to that, paid him for the meters, and we're back where we started.
Thank you. You have a follow-up? Okay. Just hold a minute for me. I recognize Tammy has a question, so we will take one online and then we'll come back to the media in the house. Go ahead, Tammy.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah.
My question is pertaining to the election. The woman noted that you guys have been approved by GCOM to go forward with the elections. Can you say if the party has any plans on or are in any discussions for a possible joiner list?
I will ask the chairman of the party to answer that.
The plain and simple question answer that is yes. I mean, we are looking at all possibilities, all avenues to depose the PPP. And if our analysis says that is a viable route, we will take it. So yes, the plain answer is yes. If you're going to ask who, the plain and simple answer is any other party other than PPP. So that should cover the entire gamut.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. And we recognize Svetlana. Just give me a minute. Sorry, Tammy, we can hardly hear.
In any discussion.
Can you repeat that? We were not able to pick it up clearly.
A follow-up. Are you currently in this? I was asking, are you in discussions already with any particular party? Aside from being hopeful of being willing to join any party, are you in discussions with any party?
Discussions on various forms of collaboration between the parties has always been ongoing. It's never ceased. We will continue to discuss until the final decision is made on not only just a joiner system. As you know, there are 2,840, I think that's the number, polling stations. Obviously, to man all 2,000, almost 3,000 polling stations in certain areas may be difficult for one party. So we're in discussions on collaborating on that. So yes, of course, discussions are ongoing with all parties. And just to follow up, if you want to know, all parties except the PPP.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson. We'll take a question from Svetlana and then come back online.
Mr. Patterson, on nominations day, the presidential candidate for the AFC indicated that by the end of the week, persons would know who's going to be Mr. Yu's running mate with respect to the prime ministerial candidate and other persons who will be running alongside him. He said it's going to be a team. Would you be so kind to disclose the name of the prime ministerial candidate and those other members of that broad team?
Right, Svetlana. So I could let you into the very first secret here. It wouldn't be me. So that's secret number one. So we have some excellent candidates sitting down here between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's all the possibilities. Any one of them can be I see Beverly raising her hand there. Right. So we'll be there. We have a process. we been having internal consultations and everything like that, you know what I mean? And it will be a youthful, vibrant team, you know what I mean, as old workhorses like myself and Kemraj will continue doing what we've been doing for the last 20 years, working and pulling and doing everything like that. But you know what I mean, so very shortly you will know.
Does the party have a deadline for when, up to what point they will
Hold a minute, please. We have a follow-up from
release
Svetlana, and we
the
will
prime
come.
ministerial candidate?
So let's take the
Is there
follow-up from Svetlana and online. Hold a minute, please.
I was asking a very follow-up with regards to, you said there was a procedure. It's an ongoing discussion. We were told this on Monday.
On
Today's
Monday,
Friday,
yes.
5 days later. What exactly is causing the delay? The public wants to know.
Exactly, that's what we're doing.
And it's going to be later today, tomorrow, next week.
It'll be next.
When the names will be disclosed.
It'll be next week. Because right now, I mean, as you know, we're doing some. Well, I don't want to disclose what we're doing, but we're doing some internal party work unrelated to prime ministerial and candidates and those things like that. You know what I mean? So it will be next week when we have a full complement of persons. Because everyone. Our idea is have all of our candidates make the announcement and so forth. Most of our candidates are out in the fields, out of Georgetown for this weekend.
And with that,
Pardon? Yes, and he's on well, I don't want to discuss this.
and the leader did say that this week as well, they're going to launch the campaign.
We do it all in the same day.
So you'll do
We do it all
of
in the
that
same day. In the same day.
next week.
Yes. But the suspense I see, Svetlana, is getting to you, so therefore stay tuned.
I will. In addition to that, you spoke about when you addressed Tamika's question on the join the list, and you spoke about agents in the fields. Sir, could you say as of now how many agents the AFC has to field in those polling places? And do you think if all the, well, with the exception of the PPP, the opposition parties, if all the parties put their agents together, they'll be able to field those close to 3,000?
Well, first and foremost, right. Thank you. Very good question, Svetlana. I don't have an exact number of agents. I have what we are doing is being extremely judicious. In the sense that we've looked at the hotspots, so I can guarantee you we'll be in the East Coast. Those 47 ballots, we've looked in areas where the voting statistically is disproportional for the PPP. Including we've looked at areas where we have seen or we suspect there'll be high, allegedly Venezuelans, or not Venezuelans, allegedly persons, I don't want to stereotype the Venezuelans, but persons who are came onto the list, you know what I mean? We've looked at that, and those are, that's what I'm saying, judiciously we're going to put places there. There's no secret that we have been in contact with our colleague opposition persons who are being just as judicious as us. I mean, some of them are set out that they can feel very successfully in certain hinterland regions. Some of them have indicated they can feel very successfully in certain PPP strongholds. And we've said, great, we will work together. The final number has not been determined, but for the AFC, we know that there are certain areas where we want, even if our colleagues are going to be there, you know, the complaint was always that when you go to certain PPP stronghold areas, and you have one agent there alone, there's some level of intimidation. So we will want to ensure, my apologies, we want to ensure that at least there's some backup in those areas, particularly on the East Coast and those areas. And Svetlana and you would be aware of the areas I'm speaking about.
Thank you, Mr. David Patterson. I recognize Starbuck News, followed by Mr. Adam Harris.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Khadija from Starbuck News. I have a few questions. I'll start with the first one for Mr. Patterson, as we're on him. What are the AFC's plans for improved public transportation? We know that in countries further afield, we see improvements being made to public transportation systems and making pedestrian-friendly cities. Yet we see in Guyana, we have persons already complaining about traffic congestion on the Heroes Highway. So what are the AFC's plans right now, or even that we can look forward to in the manifesto, for improved public transportation? When you finish, I'll ask my other questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I think you may have missed our presentation on infrastructure, but I'm happy to share it with you. We have set out indicating that we would like to have a Ministry of Transportation separately, or a Department of Transportation separately, to deal with transportation. We have also set it out at light railway. We would like to establish light railway. We even suggested an area where the bus terminal would be. We have set it out that we will reintroduce buses. We've indicated that we want to have transportation hubs in areas like Region 10, Region 6, Region 8, so that whereby, so large, like in Region 10, you would have a massive bus hub that would take traffic from Brazil, Letem, and stops in Region 10, and then you interchange. So therefore, you obviously reduce the amount of buses. Right now, they run all the way from Letem all the way to Georgetown. We would set up hubs there. We had a plan, we spoke about it, about light rail, which wasn't implemented, disregarded by the PPP, and then after we announced it, if you can recall, the Vice President, as he does, said that the PPP are considering putting in trams. But transportation is a fight thing. We've also highlighted different roadways in which we need to increase and better traffic flow. We made mention on parking and zoning. That is another problem. You may not realize it is the question of transportation is that you have hotels in residential areas that takes up the parking lanes and those things like that. We have to address all of that. But Nigel gave the full description, and I'll share it again so you would have missed it, on our infrastructure and transportation plan. But obviously, and I haven't even addressed the question of air transportation. Letem to be a regional hub, Linden to be air hub, to be a regional hub. Linden has a very underused airstrip there. So that's all in the plan. It's all been there mentioned, and I can share it with you immediately afterwards.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson.
Perfect. Thank you so much. My next set of questions mostly deal with the education policy. I know that on the AFC's page, we have the education policy split up in phases. I have questions as it relates to the first 5 years. The first section is smarter classrooms, introduce interactive digital learning tools. My question is, how will the smarter classrooms be filtered out to the indigenous communities as they're currently struggling with distance educations? We see the issue highlighted in Chinapau. Yesterday, I believe the Tushao had said that there were a lot of issues there as it relates to internet connectivity. So how exactly will these smarter classrooms be filtered out?
As highlighted.
Sorry, just let me do part B. The other part as it relates to better exams and better learning, reduce unnecessary subjects, focus on essential skills. What are the factors that determine a subject as being unnecessary? Thanks.
All right, let me take the first part of the question. As highlighted earlier, one of our policy plan is the provision of Starlink internet connectivity. So I think that would perhaps help to curb that problem as it relates to connectivity, yes. Secondly, just repeat the second question for me, please.
Unnecessary subjects. How do we
Oh,
plan?
so there will be an assessment of the curriculum, and from our end, when we went into the communities, there was a recommendation to include indigenous language and in the curriculum and revise that with the needs of the environment. I don't know if Laura would like to speak more on that.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you for your question. So how do we intend to maximize smart classrooms? Even as you just mentioned, the Tushaw of Chinapau has said that the concept of smart classroom or the online teaching has not been effective. So I was in Region 8 recently, and we learned that for at least since the Madia fire, there have been at least 50 students who have been unable to get that proper high school education as any other child, a student in Guyana has been receiving since over the last, 2-3 years. Some of them have dropped out because, number one, there is a lack of secondary trained teachers in the primary school in Chinapau. So our intention and our plans is to make it effective where you have both specially trained teachers in the classrooms and special instructors online. For example, those who teach at Queen's College, the level of that teaching, the level of that content must be similar to those in the hinterland schools. This, again, would require that physical presence of teachers are there in the classrooms. How do we do that? So this will require additional specially trained teachers to have in the classrooms. As it is right now, the level of training that teachers receive at the Cyril Potter College of Education is rushed. Therefore, it's limited, and the exposure is limited as well to the teachers and training. And we know this because we are in contact and have been engaging the teachers in training. So that is how we intend to maximize it as a holistic approach, in person and online. The level of content and the training that children receive in the schools in Georgetown must also be at the same level that our children in the hinterland receive. I don't know if that answers your question. In relation to how we intend to have I would like to suggest an overhaul of the education system is to ensure that our children are taught to ensure that they have analytical skills, meaning the introduction of even though it's happening to a limited extent, but a massive introduction of the STEM program where there's, inculcating science, technology, engineering, mathematics, that our children should be getting from a small age to go up and be able to have, be on equal footing with the foreign employees that our sectors are requiring today. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Khadija? Any other questions there? Hello?
Hello?
Adam Harris.
Yes, Adam, go right ahead.
All right. Yeah, a very good afternoon, everybody. Sorry I missed the last few. Mr. Patterson, I noticed this arrangement with this company called IEG. How do you reconcile that arrangement with the gas to energy project that should have been here by now and that might come next year? I don't know. But how do you reconcile this big effort to enter into an arrangement with a foreign company for the distribution and generation and all of this of power, even as we talk to the gas to energy project?
Adam, look, there is layers and layers of corruption and inside dealing. So when we had challenges with that. Start from the beginning. When we had challenges with the Mile Fall project, I've always said it was a Ponzi scheme. And it was a retirement fund for certain politicians that wanted to retire at that time. And inside that whole power purchase agreement, there was and people may think it's minuscule. I mean, there's a 1 or a half a penny contribution for the 20 years what has been going to these politicians. This Gas to Shore project and this GPL project has a similar sort of retirement fund contingencies in them. The government and the people of Guyana are going to be billing this Gas to Shore project. That's why we want a full audit. So we've spent $2.4 billion on it. When it's finished, you would have thought that GPL would have been running it, but no. They're giving it out to a second company, a private company, who will be running and selling to GPL. So that's one where the first half penny is. And they're now bringing on this other company, which they strange enough, they approached, the letter was addressed to Irfan Ali himself, not to GPL. And under the email I got, it was an email I got from a senior manager of GPL letter that they're waiting to sign it. Obviously, they'll come in and coach it as though it will enhance GPL's performance, but it wouldn't. But the second half penny to round it off to full cent is this commission there. So they have a power purchase agreement. That's what it is. To buy the power from GPL and sell it back to the Guyanese pub consumers. So that's where the second half penny is in the corruption. So therefore, in a sense, so every megawatt that is being produced, megawatts, yes, every megawatt is being produced, somebody in the PPP cabal will be getting at least a cent or a half cent of that, and that's a lot of money. It sounds like a little bit to somebody, a cent and a penny, but these are 367 days a week, 24 hours a day operation for 20 years. So we're talking millions upon millions of dollars. There is no need for us to be selling GPL. There's no need that GPL you should be giving a third-party contractor to run the Gas to Shore project. It's the same thing that you could also. A good example, Adam, let's say we stick a pin there, is like the Warsaw deal which we cancelled. That were charging us double times to do the same thing, that the entire company in Guyana was run by local persons. Same thing, that you can get local companies who we have the efficiency, the technical skills and everything. And if you don't have it, you can buy it in, but it's all local. But they do these deals, they're Sue-like deals. You obviously know why, you obviously know who the players are connected to the Sue-like type deals. But these are retirement funds. They know that how their time is up. I think it's 4 to 5 days. And they know that how their time with dipping in the cookie jar is limited. So they're trying to secure their retirement fund. And then, of course, they will claim immunity when we come after them.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Any follow-up to that, Mr. Harris?
No, not at the moment. I'm happy with that at the moment.
Okay, any other question from you, Mr. Harris? At this time?
Yes, I have another question, and it has to do with education. And this has to do with the fact that we're talking about quality education, but over the years, we have witnessed a decline in the quality of trained teachers. At one time, the government actually lowered the entry qualification for people entering the Cyril Potter College of Education. So when we're talking about enhancing hinterland education, I think you got to talk about enhancing the overall quality of the teachers. Is this part of the plan?
Thank you, Mr. Harris. That is exactly part of our education policy, is to have a complete overhaul of education, teachers in training, the curriculum, the content, the delivery, because, as you're rightly pointing out, we are aware that there are, I don't want the teachers in training or the already trained teachers to feel that we are trying to belittle them. But the future of our children needs to be paramount, and that is why I believe all of us, whoever gets in office or who doesn't get into office, all of us have a role to play to ensure that everyone at each stage is held accountable to ensure that we have the best teachers, that our children receive the best of training, whether in Georgetown, along the coast, or through the hinterland. What we also intend to have, what we have in our policy is to ensure that in the hinterland, we also have access to tertiary institutions, our academic and skilled trainings institutions in the hinterland, make the University of Guyana, the University of Guyana, enhance its accessibility, and to have it have branches also in regions and sub-regions of Guyana. So that is our plans. Those are our plans for education in Guyana.
Thank you, Laura. I think
Quick follow-up. A quick one. I think either you or Miss, oh boy, anyhow, mentioned,
Guyana.
right, Dana, mentioned about the children who died in the Madia fire and not being able to access secondary education, so some of them have dropped out. Have you really been pointing this out to the parents, to the hinterland parents, whose children can no longer afford a secondary education, which is needed at this time?
Are you asking about the parents of the children directly in relation to the fire? Are you talking about
Not
other
necessarily.
children?
No. You said some children have dropped out of school because they can't access secondary education in their communities. Now, have you been meeting with parents who've had children who can't access secondary education? And have you been pointing this out to them, that this is a shortcoming? 5 years down the road, and you're telling me that my child can't get a secondary education, although I'm boasting about improved education.
Well, for me personally, yes, I have done this in my prior role in civil society. We've repeated this throughout the regions. In my role here and in collaboration with Mr. Hughes and other colleagues of the AFC, we have also repeated this with the communities. Communities have also brought this to our attention. There are parents in Mykobi, in Karsparu, whose children have also refused, especially the boys, who have refused to go back to the Madia dormitory to attend school there. The girls, there were some girls who were brought out from Mykobi and other areas to go to the President's College. We have been informed that the promised continued therapy or counseling was never done, was never given to the girls nor the boys who went through that, who experienced that trauma. It has really just been blatant disrespect and injustice to indigenous children and to our parents, Mr. Harris.
Thank you. I know Mr. Jaipur Sharma wanted to come in at this point, and then we will go back to Tammy and I think it's Khadija.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the press. I just want to draw your attention to something that was glaring, and that was a newsroom report that had indicated at first hand and first glance that the PVPC consultation relating to the manifesto was one of the package ID that's coming out of the discussion, was financing for women and people living with disability. Now, if I should draw your attention to the fact that at our press conference on the 11th of July, when I was introduced to you, the leader himself indicated that one of the goals tasks of the AFC was to ensure that there was financing for women and women organization. Now, this is a clear case and evidence that this party, the PVPC party, is taking ideas from the AFC. Now, we also have discussions on our social media platform, which I participated, and I was tasked with things of the natures like developing a budget for 2026. We're looking at the end of year. So we're looking at what we're going to do between September, mid-September, to the 31st of December 2025. That happened to coincide with 100 days. So we decided to package what we will be doing for the 100 days. The AFC is proposing sweeping measures for that 100 days. We can't right all the wrong with the PPP for the 5 years, but we're going to attempt to do it within that 100 day. And that 100-day plan that we put forward consists of a lot of measures for our senior citizens, persons living with disability, and also every single citizen of Guyana, 18 years and above. And I'm speaking about a cash grant, and the cash grant that we will be paying will be $100,000 for every citizen. We indicated that we will be paying $150,000 for senior citizens and persons living with disability. So this include, of course, any person that is on the public assistance program that is presently in the system. So definitely we're giving our senior citizen and person receiving public assistance more money. This will be a feature going forward with every cash grant where we will treat them differently. And in addition to that, we also want to promote a 200 core homes for persons that live presently in dilapidated buildings, buildings that in need of serious repair, buildings that should have been torn down. So we asking them, have the public, if they could supply us with images. We have a WhatsApp number. They could supply us with images and a contact number so we could make contact with the individual, because we need to prepare this plan where we're going to cost it. And we also doing a 200 community road program where we want pictures of your roads. And just asking you to take a picture of your deplorable road and tell us where it's located with a contact number so we could follow it up. Now, this is the similar way we're going to do it for our budget 2026 in terms, if we're not on the ground ourselves, if persons have needs, that they address those needs through their NDC, the RDC, and at the level of the party, our party AFC, and also at the level of the government. We will have numbers where you will send your information in. So we're preparing the budgets. Of course, we will continue to have consultation with private sector, Chamber of Commerce, the unions. So we're not going to be making arbitrary statements and without having detailed information to be utilized. In relation to our servicemen and women in uniform, we indicating that we will be paying, believe it or not, 2 months tax-free bonus. That's 2 months tax-free bonus. Every single men and women in uniform. And I'm sure the media are going to ask, how are we going to finance it? So it's a genuine question. Before you ask, they're going to tell you how you're going to finance it. So the PVP produced a budget of 1.382 trillion plus. In addition to that, the Winton asked for over about 60-something billion supplementary. You just heard my former colleague minister mention about just a little bit of the corrupt practices of the PVP. That financing of those things that I mentioned here, we could do that same budget, that same 1.382 trillion budget, but I'm telling you, about 300 billion of that is corruption. So that 300 billion will go to all those programs and many more that we will be discussing in 100 days. So when we take office, of course, we have to see what is the amount of money remaining from that budget. And then if we need supplementary, we're going to have supplementary. But I'm saying to you, the level of corruption is conservatively pegged at 300 billion or even more. We can't say until we get into there. So that is where we're going to finance directly. Directly, we're going to finance these 100-day promises. It's sustainable.
Thank you, Mr. Jagpal Sharma. We had a question from someone was online.
Garnet.
Was it Ms. Garnett? Sabu, can you say anything from
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I have hold on, I'm trying to find my document. Yes. My first question is a follow-up to the prime ministerial situation. We have just over 2 months remaining until elections. Is there any worry within the party that waiting until so late to reveal your prime ministerial candidate leaves the party looking a little unprepared, given that we've known all year that elections was coming up and that person's discussions would have been going on for some time now, at least since talks broke down with APNU? Why so long for discussions to pick the prime ministerial candidate? And are you worried about looking unprepared?
No, we're absolutely not.
I have another question after that.
Yes, on the prime ministerial candidate again?
No, on
Okay.
another issue.
Yes. No, we're not worried. Absolutely not worried at all. We have great contenders who will be reviewed. We have a team. We'll be launching a team around our presidential candidate. You're seeing some of them here in front of us, and we have no worry at all about the appearing unprepared or so forth. You know what I mean? We have a comprehensive approach to it. I mean, we have a launch, we have our manifesto, which we've been releasing at every press conference, and we're the first party. No one has given us credit for that, Ms. Garnett. We're the first party that started releasing manifesto policies 2 months ago, and we weren't accused of being unprepared or overzealous at that time. So we work into the program that we have. If you want to assess us, fairly and equitably. And when we started giving our policies, we're the first party that's even given a policy on oil and gas to date. You know what I mean? And no one has accused us of being unprepared. So, yes, we work into our program, and it's working well so far. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Svetlana, you have a follow-up to that?
I have another question.
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
Tammy.
Yes.
After Tammy, then we go to Svetlana.
This one is a follow-up to the question that Khadija had earlier asked about reduce unnecessary focus. I was reading the education policy, and I myself had some questions. Can you say if it's referring to primary school, secondary school, or both, that you're looking at these unnecessary subjects and how to remove them?
Let me start off by saying, I think that you would have heard us say that Guyana is going to a certain trajectory. I think you are aware, the whole country is aware that STEM projects, topics and subjects will play a large role in that. When we say unnecessary subjects, we're trying to ensure that our workforce is equipped for the challenges that we have. So we obviously know where. First thing you do, have a labor survey, and you start as early as possible. Primary school, primary school, secondary school, streamline them. We've made mention of vocational vocational options for skills academy for our persons who want to go into the vocational fields. But in other words, we want to do streamline our education system to meet the needs of the country. It's not that we are saying that other persons can do what they want, but when we are laser focused on streamlining and ensuring that the country gets the maximum benefit from the resources that we have available, we want to ensure our education policy is targeted to meet that, and the tertiary level as well. So it's all garments of the education system.
If I may.
Okay, two more questions about the education policy. I noticed that it did not mention anything about special needs education. Can you say why or what are the plans for special needs education? And I noticed it didn't mention anything either about the Because We Care cash grants. And given that the AFC APNU government last time ended it when they came in, I think some persons may be concerned, like, what are your party's plans for the Because We Care cash grants? So should you achieve government in following the elections, what is the AFC's thoughts on the Because We Care cash grant in terms of continuing it, increasing it, or anything like that, and special needs education?
Well, let me first state one thing, and it's been lucidly clear. We did not end the Because You Care cash grant. It was ended by the PPP. And there is a cabinet memo out, which, it's one of those urban myths where the PPP just keeps repeating, and unfortunately, persons bite into it. It was the PPP. Roger Luncheon was the Secretary of the Cabinet. Priya Manichan was the Minister of Education. They ended it in March, I think March the 31st of 2015. March 30th, and it's up out publicly. They made no provisions for it to
Share around the cabinet.
we share it on the cabinet. It's a public document. So, but they keep saying it. Look, help for our students, teachers, and those things that the Jaipa was just saying thing here. So, we will be continuing every worthwhile program and improving on it. We will obviously want to humanize it. We don't want to have parents coming and sitting down and smiling and have to speak to Chronicle and DPI and smile with their checks to say that we like the minister to collect their own taxpayers' money. We would obviously hope that there will be a better system. We want to have a better system, maybe somehow, even if you transfer it by bank transfer, so you don't have to line up and those things like that, even though the system is sort of streamlined, but we would take the politics out of it. If taxpayers' money, it is meant to help and assist students and parents, and we would obviously continue any program that is meant to do it. But we will do it as a duty, not as opposed to a political propaganda event. Right now, the students have to sit down and do you imagine that they have to sit down and listen to the minister or the ministers to give a speech to collect their money? That will not happen. Only if there's money owed to you, we can post it out. You can do it in a human, so you can maintain your dignity. So persons listening to us and know. The Jaipal already told you so where we could find the money. We're not cutting anything. We're going to improve it, link it better. We probably even consider that the persons, the students most heartfelt, like in the hinterlands, we would most likely would like to look to see if they can have an additional support as well, because their traveling and their needs are, in some cases, higher than the persons located in urban centers.
If I can also add, David, to that question, the specifics, of course, will be introduced or listed probably at the campaign launch and the full manifesto, but you did mention a very important part of special needs education. When we spoke of the overhaul of the training system of teachers, that's also part of it, to ensure that there are additional teachers specially trained in that area, to have schools probably not separated, but part of a holistic education system where special needs children are also effectively taught, their needs met, in terms of settings. So infrastructural development or infrastructure of the schools is also key to ensure that our children who are in those situations are also, their needs are also met. We have no special needs system or schools in the hinterland. Those are areas that will be addressed. So yes, we have a holistic approach to education of our children. So I just needed to say that.
Thank you, Laura. Khadija, you have a question?
And just let me, just before you go there, the manifesto, as you would know, will come in two formats, right? And the one that you've seen on education and on and so far, those are simply the summary, bullet-pointed highlights. The manifesto with the details and so forth, which we were told, but other than the newspapers and certain intellectual persons, don't read all the fine print. So we didn't want to put our education policy, and then it was 4 pages, 5 pages? Yeah, but 4 or 5 pages. We didn't want to put all 4 or 5 pages with all the details of how you're going to do it. So if you don't see anything in the highlighted bullet point, what should I say, voter consumable friendly format, just wait until the whole document come out, which you can dissect and interrogate further.
Thank you. Khadija? Khadija, we cannot hear you as yet.
Hi, yes. Sorry about that. My final question has to once again do with the education policy. I noticed there is a need for school psychologists and social workers. I want to ask, how will that be done given the current labor shortage that we have? How does AFC plan to address the current labor shortage in the face of putting in more school psychologists and social workers in the interior regions as well as Georgetown and the coastal regions?
Having more psychologists in Guyana will require, yes, additional labor force. And whilst there is that perception that there is a shortage of labor force, it really requires a holistic approach. Again, I would say this, with specialized training, relevant training, appropriate training of these psychologists or social workers. We have indigenous people, so we will need to have persons who are aware, who respect, and who are, who can relate with indigenous peoples and the communities. So in regards to that, we intend to partner with international universities, human rights organizations that have done this. It has been done in other countries. So we will partner with those universities. We will partner with the University of Guyana to enhance its number and intake. And this is why when we spoke about the extension of the University of Guyana to the regions, it will be to ensure that it is a lot more accessible to persons who we know are, who have challenges financially and are unable to either do it online or to do it in person in Georgetown. So we're focused on an approach that is fair, just, accessible to people, to the communities. And in the schools, we believe that there needs to be intense training, not a crash course, that we are aware that persons have been put into and expect to respond to the children's needs from the nursery, primary and secondary schools. So there is a plan to ensure that our persons are potential citizens who are interested in becoming psychologists, counselors, therapists, that we have this streamlined to meet the needs of our children. And not only in the high schools, but also those beyond the high school. As adults, there are many, many of us who face various challenges, who are still trying to heal from trauma, who also are in need of further counseling and therapy throughout our lives. So those are how we intend to approach it.
Just let me add, Ms. Ba, the longest journey begins with the very first step. Right now, and I think your question is premised on us at the finishing tape, whereby we have a fully stacked, professionally full core of psychologists and those things like that. But let me give you a background on where we are at, where we started from. We have a very good young man, Colin Haynes, who did a program. He does a podcast, and I was astonished to hear that we have 2 trained psychologists in Guyana. So that's the whole country. Forget the schools. Huh? But he also advised that we start small. Guidance counselors, I think you call them, student support personnel in the schools. So they obviously, and that contributes. You don't have to be, and you train them, short courses, to deal with the general day-to-day issues you have. I mean, in the hinterland areas, you train somebody, and it can be a retiree. It can be somebody, a retired teacher, a senior citizen. You can bring him or her out, and you train them, and they can speak their local dialect, and they can be able to interact in the very first instance to the student on their life challenges, their problems, and provide guidance to them and those things. And then we proceed onwards and build out it. I mean, and that is how we intend to do it. Slowly, the first step, slow by slow, you know what I mean? But ensure that within every school system, there is an individual who a student can go to and discuss these problems. If the problems are greater than that person can handle, they will be referred upwards and upwards until obviously it's out that student has received the relevant support that he or she needs. So therefore, it's the first step. Don't look at the tape, look at the steps that we want to take to get to the tape. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Kamran, you were adding something?
No, that's, I was just going to say
Sure.
There's another question?
From Svetlana, yes.
Mr. Sharma, you spoke about your budget 2026.
100 days.
The 100-day constitution, the 100-day plan. You spoke about the $100,000 cash grant. Is that going to be an annual occurrence, or how is it going to be rolled out? And I assume it's for the 18 years and above.
Yes, I would not pronounce if it would be 100,000 going forward. This is for the first 100 days. And we look at it because, look, at the end of this month, our public servants, including our police, teachers, nurses, will be receiving an 8%. I don't think the administration had contemplated that they would give anything else other than that 8%. So if they should return to office, what they would give, you will not be expecting your regular back pay in December, of course. Only the men and women in uniform will get the usual 1-month tax-free bonus. So we are saying we don't want our people to be suffering that situation where they have no backup for the Christmas. So we're proposing that 100,000.
For the Christmas season?
Yes.
In the first 100 days.
The first 100-day cash grant. And of course, for the senior citizens and person on the public assistance listing will be receiving 150,000. Of course, the men and women in uniform will be receiving 2 months tax-free bonus.
Thank you. And we have one other question from in-house here. Go ahead.
Hi, good day. Nikhila Cross for NCN News. I was wondering, for the cash grant for mothers, do you have any intentions on increasing that amount or furthering that initiative?
As we look, we will, first and foremost, disabuse your mind that we will be taking away any good project that is working. We can guarantee you that we will examine every single thing and make them more efficient and continuous and less politicized. You know what I mean? You wouldn't have to walk with your baby your mother walk with her baby on her shoulder, lactating baby, and take a picture with NCN to get your cash grant. We probably will, most likely, deposit it in your bank account if you don't have it, or even get someone to deliver it to the mother, because of course, you know, I mean, she has a lot more things to do. I mean, it really is difficult to find a babysitter You're not my mother, I know that. So, so for you to do all of that and spend and go and collect the money, those things, we'll be eliminating all of that. Once there, you put up, you registered, we'll allow you to contact us and choose a form of collection that you most suits your circumstances. I mean, if you want it in your bank account, if you want it posted because it's addressed to you, if you want it cash, we will be doing that. I mean, the handing out of cash grants and public assistance and those things like that will not be a political propaganda affair under our administration.
If I may also add to what David is saying on that cash grants, and as I said, I was in Region 8 recently. There are mothers who, with their newborns, are in receipt of the checks. And these have been unable to encash it because there are no banks in Region 8, in the North Pacaramas. Their usual way of trying to get the businesses to help them encash, I mean in terms of like goods and some cash, is not working anymore because those businesses have reported they're finding challenges when they come to encash it in Georgetown. So there are mothers in Region 8, and I assume many other regions in the hinterland, who have the checks for the newborn initiative, under the newborn initiative, and have been unable to encash those checks. So we intend to put systems in place that is a lot more accessible, a lot more just, and
political.
Yes, less political. Thank you, David.
In relation to the U-Born initiative, this is something that we're going to continue, and we're looking at 300,000 for U-Born, and we're going to extend that to the deceased person. Every single Guyanese that passed away, the family receive a $500,000 for burial expense. Now, this burial is very costly thing in Guyana. People have to depend on the family from overseas to send in remittance to bury the dead ones. That person, when they're deceased, they have no more access to the cash grant. So we will be giving that family that to save them that cost. So this will be going through to the 2026 budget and going forward. So I hope I wouldn't be seeing any flash, but from the PPP, see that they now care for the dead. We know we have a lot of dead in the voters list, but we're not been looking at that. We're looking at, and this is a way of tracking the dead in the voters list also, because once we give you that 500, we know your name's and supposed to be being shown on the voters list any longer. So that is one way that we're going to be tracking deceased persons. Also, former Vice President and his last position was Shadow Minister for Agriculture at the National Assembly. I know his opening statement may be alarming to our...
it's public security. No, Ebola was agriculture.
No, Shadow Minister. Yeah, for Agriculture. I know his opening statement may sound alarming to our Guyanese brothers and sisters still in the sugar industry, Isupcom relating to. He mentioned about the PPP pump 40 billion to the supporters, is meat for the supporters. Now we have no problem with the 40 billion. I want to put it on record that the first thing when I signed on to the AFC, and that was on the 11th of July, no other than the presidential candidate and the leader of the AFC asked me the first question, if we're going to keep Gaisuku. I reported to him that evening, after looking at the situation and the amount of money to our disposal, we will keep all the existing estates. Yes, we're going to look at how to making them profitable, but we will keep in all of the estates. And to the 7,500 workers that was displaced, we will be giving them some assistance. We will be giving them some assistance. We're looking at if they're still if they are still unemployed, we're going to look at that. If they're still employed, we will give them something. If they're in the process of being employed, we will give them something. If they're employed, we look at what the current emoluments are, and we will give them something. So the 7,500 workers that was retrenched will all receive something. And for clarity, if the PVP with 3 FPSO only give Gaisuku 40 billion or even more, I'm going to say this to you. that the AP and UAFC government, the previous government, when we were in office, we gave Gaisuku similar amount of money. A government that the PPP thought that we didn't love the people, we didn't love sugar workers, but without oil and gas funds, you go and check the records. The records show that we gave that similar amount of money that this PPP is given to the present estates. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jaipal Sharma. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, as we bring this press conference to a close, we want to remember Alan Lewis, Ron Somerset, Shemroy Boyle, the Linden martyrs who were executed, gunned down, their lives snuffed out through police excesses. And to all those families who in one form or the other would have been shattered by excesses of the state, we say to you, stand with us, stand with the Alliance for Change. Never again must the child, a girl child, have her life taken and no proper investigation. Not another Adrienne Young. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, and for those joining us online, and to my panel here, thank you.